I'm Ricky. I have been teaching guitar for roughly around about just over 30 years. I have a music school here in the UK. I teach guitar for a job. It's my job. It's what I do. And I felt an urgent need to jump on here and just hopefully guide people through this sort of precarious first steps, because this is where people give up. This is the point where it hurts your fingers, where it's frustrating and you don't really know where to start. And this is the most important part of learning guitar, because what you really, really need to do is foster an enjoyment of learning the guitar in the first place. So I'm here today. I'm just going to do this. So put this out here and see if anybody has any questions or anything else like that. Then please, drop them in the comment box there, and I will help if I can. But the thing that I thought would be the first thing that really is a battle for all beginning guitarists is there's a multitude of different things. There really is a multitude of different things that can go wrong. I'm not here to sell any lessons. I'm not here to sell a course or anything else like that. If you found it useful, I do have a YouTube channel. You can, or you don't have to, or whatever, if you want to check me out on there. But, I'm not here to promote anything like a course or none of that nonsense. Yeah, I hate that bollocks. So here we are. The first things we need to know for guitar, for a new guitarist, for a brand new guitarist eager to play songs. Because really, ultimately, if somebody says, and I keep seeing this, people saying you need to learn how to do bar chords, get onto bar chords as soon as possible. No, you don't. You do not need to learn how to play a bar chord straight away to get into songs. Some songs you'll be amazed that they only have two chords. And those two chords have made millions for the songwriters who have written those songs. And those songs are their pension. Those songs are their living. Those songs are their legacy. So you only need two chords. You do not need to learn how to play a bar chord straight away. If you are struggling with an F or a B chord, which people do, and that's why they call them the F chord and the B chord, I would suggest that's later on down the line. You work your way to that. It's really, really important that you stay motivated, because motivation provides the momentum to keep you going and learning and keeping on going through the pain barrier. Yeah, so the first thing that you're going to notice really with learning guitar in the beginning is how much it hurts your fingers. Now, you've got a choice. If you've got an acoustic, these are going to hurt your fingers more. They're definitely going to hurt your fingers. There's nothing you can do about that. Here's the thing, though, that the pain only lasts for about 30 days if you play regularly. Every day, you must play every day. Yes. Now, it's not a good idea to play for hours upon hours when you're just starting out. It's important to make sure that the whole process of learning guitar is absolutely enjoyable. If you start associating this thing with pain, you will not pick it up, and you will give up on your dream of learning how to play guitar and playing songs that you like. Yeah. And playing guitar, actually, at the end of the day, it's about you. It really is about you and how you want to express yourself through the instrument. You're not doing it for anybody else. You're doing it for you. So always remember that fact. It's always about you. So first things first here. The first thing you need to do is get to know the anatomy of your instrument. You need to know which bit is which. Yeah. So first things first. This is the head of the guitar, and this is the body. This here is the neck. Yes, so we can see that we've got the neck there. That makes sense. That's logical. However, what isn't logical is up and down malarkey. Yeah, it isn't that isn't logical. So you need to make sure you get that right as well. I'll come back to that one here in a moment. What we also have is we have the 6 strings. Now, the way we change the pitch of the strings, the sound of the notes here, is we change the length of the string. And we use these metal wires that are embedded in the fretboard here, and we use them to make the string shorter. Now, if you look at the string, of your guitar, and if you have a guitar by you, just go and pick it up now, yeah, or watch this back on the replay. If you look here, you have a plastic bit here. If it's an acoustic guitar, you'll have a plastic bit there as well. If it's an electric guitar, also. Here, you'll see you have something called a bridge nut here. So this is the head nut, and this is the bridge nut, or also it's called the bridge saddle. You know, there's lots of different words for the same thing, but that's the saddle because the string rides on it. Now, the string starts here and ends here, and that vibration that is caused between those 2 points there causes the string to vibrate at a pitch or a frequency. And by making the string shorter, what happens is the pitch of the string goes up. Now, this is actually how I started with guitar, just messing around with like that. But it's really, really important that we get to know these things here. If we look at that fret wire again, that fret wire there that's sitting there, each of these fret wires, when you press down in a fret, essentially becomes a new head nut. So if I put that finger on here, I'm at the 5th fret here. If I put that on there, this behind here is now useless. It's absolutely useless. Yeah, I can't do anything with it. Well, I could, but that's not really any good. So that's absolutely useless. But from there to there, it isn't useless because that's where the pitch comes from. And I change that pitch, the highness or the lowness of that pitch, by moving my finger up. This is up. Yeah, or down. This is down, because if we look at the frets, we could think of that as being fret number 1. That's fret number 2, fret number 3, fret number 4, fret number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What's happening with those numbers there? They're going up. The numbers are going up. But also listen to the sound here. If you listen to the sound, the pitch is going up as well. So the pitch is getting higher. So this is up, this is down. I know that might not seem intuitive because this is the head and this is the body, and you know that's the way that it should be. And that kind of says that, but it isn't. This is up, that is down. That's a kind of a good thing to know. Another thing to know is when you press down on a fret with your very, very sore fingers as a beginner, it's important that you maximize where you put your finger. You make sure that you put your finger in the optimal spot, in the sweet spot. Now, if I were to put my finger on the 3rd fret here of the thick E string, this thickest string here, and to be honest, right now, it doesn't matter whether you are in tune or not, because this is just a simple exercise to show you how to fret a string effectively and make it sound good, depending obviously on the setup of your guitar. If your strings are like massively away from your neck, then it's going to be impossible. But here's what you need to look at. If you look at the distance you have in that fret, you've got this lower fret wire and you have this upper fret wire. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we get the tip of the finger as close to the upper fret wire as possible. Because remember, what's happening is our fret wire is becoming a new head nut. The string, remember what I said before, is starting here and terminating here. This is the full length of the string. That's all we're working with right now. If I put my finger in the middle of the fret, it's a little harder to press down. And if I put my finger at the back of the fret, I'm going to get a lot of buzz. I might not even be, and if you're a tender-fingered beginner, you're going to find it really, really hard to get a good sound. If your notes sound like that, then all you need to do, and I'll just bring this close into the camera, all you need to do is move that closer to the fret wire, and you will get a good sound. Now, there's a caveat to that. There's a kind of an exception. Sometimes when we play chords or other things, we might need to reserve some space by moving that finger back a little bit. And generally what I tend to say is, if you press the fret just behind the fret wire, if you're thinking on a scale of 1 to 10 how hard it is to press, behind the fret wire should feel like 3 out of 10. If you move it to the middle of the fret, it should feel kind of like 5 out of 10 to get a good clean note. If I move it to the back of the fret, to get a good clean note, I'm going to have to squeeze really hard, and that's painful. And it still buzzes. So placing your finger in the frets is really, really important for getting the optimal sound out of your strings. And it doesn't matter which string it is, what fret it is, it's always going to be the same rule. I have had guys who've been playing for years who come along with a D chord, and they say, I can never get my D chord to sound right, and they go, all right, okay. They play the D chord and it goes, and it doesn't sound great at all. And then I see that their fingers are in the 8 out of 10 spot. They've not thought about this idea of optimizing your finger placement in the fret to make sure you get the best sound out of the strings, because that's ultimately what you want to do. You want to get the best sound out, because if you get the best sound out, you're going to feel good about yourself. If you feel good about yourself, you're going to practice. Which brings me to another thing about practice. How often should you practice? I think my reckoning is that practice should be done little and often in the beginning. And I mean, pick the guitar up 10 times a day if you can, yeah, for 5 minutes. Do not try and do it for an hour, because it will lead to frustration. It will lead to frustration if you're a beginner. You don't want to be putting yourself through that, because what happens is you instill doubt in your mind that you can learn guitar. And if you instill that doubt, yeah, you will give up. And you don't want to give up, because what I want you to do, and actually if you do it right now, I want you to think about it and maybe even comment in the box below, the thing that made you want to pick up a guitar in the first place. You know what that is. That thing, yeah? It should make you smile, that thing. It should make you feel good. And that's the emotion that you need to tap into every time you pick up the guitar. You want to enjoy it. And if you do, you will become a guitar player. Right, on to the next thing. And I want to talk about this. I've seen a video in another thing about hands. Now, this is I think I've done this in a video over on my YouTube channel, but I want you to understand that there is no cookie cutter method for holding chords, doing the chords. Everybody's hands are different. I have seen so many different shapes and sizes of hands, and so many different ways that people struggle with making chords, you know, whether they've had accidents or all sorts of different ways that you know, there is no book that has the definitive method. There is no authority on learning guitar. All the word authority means is the author of the writ, someone who wrote something down. Everything is opinion. So take everything with a pinch of salt, including what I say. Whatever works for you is what works for you, and that's the way to go. However, over the last 30 years of teaching guitar, I have seen routes to success, and I've noticed those, and those are the ones that I go, okay, that works for a lot of people, that works for a lot of people, that really works for a lot of people. And I've noticed these things over the years. And one of the things that people don't really look at is the hands. And your hands are super, super important. What you need to do, and I want you to follow me in this exercise. If you are on the other side of this screen right now, I want you to hold your hand out level like this. Yeah. And what I want you to do is I want you to understand that the ligaments in your hand only work a specific way. Yeah. And what we want to do is we want to work with how your hand works. You know, if you imagine trying to bend your elbow that way, you know, to touch your head, it's absolutely not going to happen. So your limbs and your ligaments will only allow your hands to move a certain way. But it's important to understand how ligaments work with each other. Yeah, because this is going to ultimately give you the hand strength that you need to hold chords, to play scales and to play arpeggios and to do everything that you want to do on guitar. Right, and importantly, to achieve flow, where you are relaxed. Because if you think about it, anything that you do that is relaxed is usually where you excel. So we want that. When you see the guys on stage playing solos and they look really relaxed, it's because they're in a state of flow. They're working with how their body works. It's being relaxed. So if we take this hand, if you take your hand out here, so hold your hand out. If you look at your thumb is quite an independent digit. And if you move your thumb downwards, so from a horizontal to a vertical position like that, you'll see that when you move that thumb, it doesn't really affect these fingers here. Yeah, so look at that. So that is an independent digit. This is the one that means we rule the world. Because of this is why we're the dominant species on the planet. Right, so this one, however, if you pull down that index finger, you might get the same thing as me, and you see that this second finger wants to go along as well. Yeah, and what you'll feel is that rub. There's a kind of a rub between the tendons, and you feel that. But you've got to keep these three straight and pull down on that one. Right, okay, so you've done that. Now, if we pull down on the middle one, that's tougher, because that wants to pull this one down here. It wants to pull a bit of this one down as well. Yeah, and I'm nearly 50, so my hands, and I'm feeling this as I get older, that my hands are getting less mobile. Right, so this one, right, that pulls down on that one. If I pull down on my ring finger, yeah, that feels a little freer, but it still pulls slightly on the second and on the pinky. And if I pull down on the pinky, yeah, you can see that pulls down on the third finger. Note which ones are work the same way for you. Now, the reason being is that the hand has these Y-shaped tendons. So this finger and this finger have a Y-shaped tendon that goes down here, and there's a strap tendon that goes across. So it's almost, if I put my hand like that, it would look like an A, a capital A going across. If I was to do the same on the second finger, it would be a capital A. If I was to do the same between the third and the fourth finger, it would be another capital A. So you've got three of these strap ligaments that go across there, and they alter the tension in your fingers. Now, curiously, some people have total independence, and people like Lang, pianists, tend to have this. I've even heard of people having operations to get them sliced so that they can get a wider reach. You don't actually need massive hands to play guitar. If you've ever seen that video with those North Korean kids, like all 8 of them, and they're about 5 years old playing guitar, you realize that you don't need massive hands to play guitar. So just noting on that idea there, that should give you an idea of where your constraints are in your hands. We are all limited by our constraints. And that pinky Yeah, and all those other fingers work the way they work, and that's very specific to your hands. Yeah, so when you get the book and the book says the thumb must be here, no, that's not the truth. Yeah, the thing is, you know, Jimi Hendrix had the thumb over here. Stevie Ray Vaughan, the thumb over the top. Larry Carlton, thumb over the top. I can't, you know, say how many players put the thumb over the top. So the thing is, it's all about the individual's hands. It's really, really important to understand that. Now, as well as understanding how these tendons work, what I want you to do is I want you to, if you just hold your hand as if you were asleep, and I call this sleeping hand, and if you've got children and you watch them asleep, this is the shape that their hands form. And if you just stretch your fingers out, what you'll feel is energy being used in your muscles in your fingers. You'll feel there's a tension of muscle use that goes in there. And if you just relax back to sleeping hand, then you'll feel that tension go. If you pull your hand in to make a fist, you'll feel the tension, and that will present itself in your forearm. We don't want tension. Tension is bad, because if you have tension, it's harder to achieve flow, and we want to achieve flow because we all want to be on top of a mountain playing guitar like Steve Vai at the end of the day, if we can get there. So on that premise, this is the hand that you want to adopt. Oh, there we go, back in focus. So we want this sleeping hand, and we want to maintain that sleeping hand when you are holding the guitar neck. So with that sleeping hand, I just want you to hold the guitar neck and just take the weight of the guitar with that hand. Right? Now, this part of the guitar, I'm going to think of this as, I always think of this as the butt of the guitar here. What you can do is you can put I tend to put my bicep on there, like that. And then this hand here, I do sleeping hand with this hand. And this would be also how I would hold a plectrum, with a similar kind of feel of grip. Now, there are lots of different ways to hold a plectrum. Yeah, there are a ton of different ways. Eddie Van Halen holds it like this. Yeah, so you know it works for him. However, I like the idea of future-proofing my guitar playing by holding my plectrum in a way that can facilitate single notes, where I can play notes, I can play chords in strums, yeah, but I can also, this is a little bit further on down the line, use it for flat picking, kind of bluegrassy things or bluesy things, or hybrid picking. Yeah, so you might want it for things like, yeah, so you got this going on. So you might want that. You might not. You might just want to rock out and do power chords and play rock songs. That's cool as well. But what I'm saying here is, if you have this method here, coming from this sleeping hand approach, and I really heartily recommend is taking your plectrum or your pick, whatever you want to call it, and keeping them in your pocket. If you keep them in your pocket, then you can practice when you are not with your guitar. You can hold that pick, yeah, and you can just get the feel of it, because what it is, it's a kinesthetic thing. Your body doesn't like to learn new things. Yeah, it's how things feel, and this is it's an interesting topic, which I might, if you enjoy this, I might do another one of these if you want, if there's enough of a response. We'll see. There's a lot of people in this group. So here is how I personally hold my plectrum, and it seems a little bit counterintuitive, because it might seem that you would, and I'll just put my guitar down here. It might seem that you would place the plectrum on the fingerprint part of the finger. But what that's going to do is going to reduce the actual mobility that you have in your hand, and it's going to reduce the friction, the looseness of your wrist, because when you strum chords, you want it to come from a certain place so that you can feel the excursion of the pick. When you strum, it's a pendulum stroke. Yes. So if you want any degree of control, so the way I hold my pick, and the way I teach my students to hold the pick, and I'm not saying this is, like I say, this is not the only way to hold your pick, but it works for me, and it works for lead guitar and everything else in between. I point the pick on this. This is, if you notice on your finger, you've got 3 sections. You've got 3 of them. Now, the one with the nail is called the distal phalange, phalanges. Yeah, so your distal phalanges are these last ones here. So that one there with the nail, what I tend to do is I place the plectrum or the pick on the side of that finger. If you balance it like that, then what you can see is I bring my thumb round, and what I do is I put the squidgy fat part of the thumb on the top all the way across the plectrum or the pick, so I get lots of grip. Lots of grip. You want lots of grip. You kind of got to think of your plectrum as being like a pen. If you were to hold a pen, you wouldn't hold a pen at the end and expect any degree of accuracy in your writing. You hold the pen close to the tip so that the movements are smaller and you can get more accuracy. The same thing applies with the plectrum. We want the same thing to go on there. So putting that there, and then we put the broad fat part of the thumb over that fat part of the plectrum. Let me have a look. Can I see that? Right, I'm on 2 screens here, so you can see that's there, right? Okay, so we've got that there. Hopefully you can see that. Does that make sense? Right, we've got it. All right, Chris, do I recommend learning chords first? Yeah, mate. You know, the thing is, it's just, what I think is just learn a song. Just learn a song. Learn something simple. If you can recognize it, and maybe if somebody else can recognize it, that's amazing feedback. If you're playing guitar and somebody comes along and goes, "Oh, that's that song, isn't it?" and you go, "Yeah," the feedback that you'll get from that is absolutely amazing. The emotional reward that you will get, the reward bias, that will push you on, and you'll actually want to do that. You know, you absolutely, need to touch into that first source of motivation, the inspiration to pick up the guitar in the first place. It's really, really important to stay as close to that. What happens is most people start learning guitar, and it goes from being about the emotional aspect of what guitar is and music is. You've got to remember that why we pick up the guitar, because music is the language of emotion. Yeah, and when we play songs, we do it to make ourselves feel happy, because, or to feel sad but in a good way. There's all these different reasons that we use music, but the thing to keep in mind is that it's about the emotion. It's about the emotion. People might say the shredders, they're sad, but shredding is aggressive. It's angry. It's still an emotion. It's still valid. And any guitar playing is valid. Yeah. The thing is, if you can stay close to that emotion, you will feed your brain and your heart, and you will learn, and you will want to learn, and you want to pick the guitar up more. Here's the thing. Back to this plectrum. Yeah. If I put the thumb on across there like that, remember, sleeping hand. And the reason I have sleeping hand is because I want these 3 fingers to be quite mobile, because I might want them to use hybrid. I might want them for comping chords or other things, or for tapping or anything else like that. Any of the other techniques that are out there. Yeah. So what I'd say is get that like that. Okay. So you've got that like that. You can watch this if you're on this channel. It'll be in the video section. Yeah. And hopefully, it'll stay up there. So we've got this here, this plectrum. And I wanted to say this, watch out for this happening. You do not want to have the tip of the thumb on there. When the tip of the thumb goes in there, what happens is tension gathers here in this knuckle, but it doesn't stay there. Tension in one spot of the body has to be compensated somewhere else in the body. You've got to understand that the tension from there, if I take that out, there's no tension. It's great. That works now. It works on its own. If I put that tension in there, it follows up my arm and possibly into a shoulder, makes the shoulder right high. How many people have you seen playing guitar with the shoulder up here, or when they do things like this? It's tension. We don't want that tension. So we don't want that. We want that there. So this is why I say just carry that plectrum around, or the pick around in your pocket, making sure that that stays on the side of your index finger. Notice that. Look at that. It's on the side of my index finger. And it only just covers the distal phalange. Yeah? It only just covers that. Now hold that there like that. So I know how to use my left hand. I know how to use my right hand. I know how to fret properly. I know where's up, where is down. Next thing I want you to do is, if you have your plectrum, yeah, you can practice getting a good sound out of the strings, yeah, and it doesn't matter, like I say, whether it's in tune or not. I think all those years ago when I first picked up the guitar, I think most of us just basically strum down and up. Now what we're after is we're using the plectrum almost like a knife buttering some bread. And if I come down the guitar here, you can see the angle that I'm taking there, and you'll notice that my arm moves like this, and I get this slight curving. Yeah, I'm exaggerating it here. So you get this slight thing here going on. Now you can cover your strings, and that is practice. It's valid. I've just rested my fingers over here. If you squeeze down too hard, you'll get jazz chords. Yeah? So look, hopefully you can see that there. I'm exaggerating the movement there. But what you're looking out for is you do not want friction on the downstroke. Yeah, you need to feel the strings. The plectrum is slipping off the strings by means of gravity. This is called the excursion of the plectrum. So we take the excursion, yeah, and we don't want to go too far. We don't want to go down there. we want to make sure that we stop just after the strings, and then on the upper excursion, we should feel the same amount of friction as we would do doing the downstroke. Yeah, so that's all you're doing. So you're just going up and down like that. Right, okay. So if we do that, then what happens is we can do our first chord. Now, the first chord I recommend all students play is really the simplest chord, and it's the most forgiving chord. And the chord that I recommend is an E minor, yeah? Because it's important to play an E minor, because when your fingers hurt, you'll need one, because it's a sad chord. So what we want to do is we want to place a finger on the strings. Oh, and I should basically tell you the names of the strings and a way to remember the names of the strings. So we have 6 of these beasties. We've got the E, the A, the D, the G, the B, and the E string. Now that is terrible to try and remember that. Now, if you're a beginner and I said that to you, you know, you'd probably go, no, I can't remember that. Here's another way to remember it. Eddie ate dynamite. Goodbye, Eddie. That's a mnemonic to help you to remember. If your name is Eddie, I apologize, because Eddie gets blown up every time we tune up. So Eddie ate dynamite. Goodbye, Eddie. E A D G B E. Now, while you're holding that plectrum, what you can do is you can count down those strings. So if I said, for example, play a G string, we'd go E, A, D, G. And then we would pluck that string, and hopefully it would sound great if you're in tune. And the funny thing is that these tuners that are relatively inexpensive these days, these tuners, they kind of help you. They've got a cheat built in, because what these guys do is they say the notes. Hang on, let me just come over here. So if we look here, we can see E. Now it's almost like a game. You've got to get that little dial up into the 12 o'clock position and make it go green, and that tells you that the note is that is all right. Okay, that's been abandoned for months. Halla, make sure you get that bad boy out. Right. So E. So you can see that's Eddie. A. Right. Oh, I'm a little bit out of tune there. And I'm turning that up. I'm raising the pitch of that note. And it's going red because I'm going too far. So I drop below the string, the note, and I tune back up to it. There we go. Dynamite. So look, remember, just to remind you, Eddie, 8, dynamite. Next string, G, good, bye. Now that's a bit sharp, is that? It's a bit higher than it needs to be. There we go, we've got a B. Good, bye, Eddie. So, Eddie, 8, dynamite, goodbye, Eddie. I definitely, I'm not sure if I do have that one on my YouTube channel, but there you go. So, Eddie, 8, dynamite, goodbye, Eddie. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to hold down 2 strings at the 2nd fret. We're going to hold down the A string, which if we look down it, if we go down the strings like this. So what we're going to use is we're going to use the middle finger, yeah, your 2nd finger. It's really, really important, I think, to use these 2 fingers, yeah, because we're doing rock and roll, to use these 2 fingers to play the E minor versus these 2 fingers, because these 2 fingers will limit you in how you do your chord changes. They will slow you down eventually in the long run. These 2 fingers, I favor these. Someone may disagree with me, probably, but I'm sticking with it. Now, what happens is I'm going to go down the 2nd fret. The 2nd fret of my A string. It's a bit like Battleships, if you've ever played that. Or it's almost like a map coordinate. If we go E, we go A, 2. So 1st fret, 2nd fret. So I'm going to put my 2nd finger. And you know what? This is what I said earlier on about reserving some space. If I put that 2nd finger at the 5 out of 10 spot, yeah, then that leaves enough room for my 3rd finger to go into the 3 out of 10 spot. Those fingers are in the best spot they could possibly be. It's impossible to put both of these fingers in the 3 out of 10 spot like this. A pet peeve of mine, you have to understand, is that chord diagrams in books and online, everywhere you go, are set out to look pretty and to suit the typographer, not actually people's hands. So it's really, really important that you understand this. So we stagger those fingers ever so slightly. And these 2 fingers, you'll know that you're playing an E minor chord correctly now because you'll have this hand of rock. That's important, because when you're wearing your leather trousers and you're sliding across the stage in the future, you'll need to be able to do that as you slide across the stage. Yeah? Right. Okay. So here, what we do is we hold that, and you can see, using that buttering motion with the plectrum, up and down, playing the E minor chord, which is very forgiving. I'm I'll move back so you can see that. Yeah? I should be able to get a good sound. It's live. Will it save so you can watch it later as you're out? Alex, I think it should do. When I end, I'll make sure that it saves. If it doesn't save, then I'm afraid there's not much I can do about it. That's something to do with the group. I hope I'm not treading on any admin toes or anything else like that. It's just a lot of you out there just beginning with guitar. It's like you need some information, because it's like there's so much bad information out there. The problem with YouTube, I find, is that there's too much information. It's so confusing knowing where to start, which is why I set up my YouTube channel. I'm going to name check it again. You know, if you look up my name, just look me up. You look, there's my name, Ricky Comiskey. If you type that into your YouTube, you'll find I've got some videos and everything up there for beginners about strumming and all sorts of different stuff. If you come along, you come along. If you don't, then, well, hopefully I'll do another one of these on here as well. Okay, so back to where I was at with this. So I'm just strumming along on that E minor chord, and it sounds great. And if you can sing, then you could sing something soulful and sad. Yeah? Look at that. Now, here's a little exercise. I like to do this because what it does is it works on separating those ligaments. Remember, I talked about how those ligaments work there, and this is a great exercise. This is an exercise you can do without your guitar. So if you do this, we come in peace, total recall. We come in peace, total recall. And my fingers are straight like that. Yeah, so bat, 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 bat. So just switching between those two. What that does is it helps to develop a little bit of independence in those fingers. Well, this motion, watch these two fingers here. When I split those there and pull them back in, that's the action. I'm trying to get into my muscle memory in these two fingers here. So I play this E minor and do that with those fingers, and I do it on the strings. Watch what I do here. I'll take this, I'll take my second finger up a string and my third finger down a string. So my second finger is now on the second fret of the thick E string, this one here. My third finger has moved down a string and it's on the second fret of the G string. Now that gives me this sound, yeah, which sounds pretty horrible, yeah. I'm using the pad of my finger to mute the A string a little as well. If you can't do this, it's fine. Just stick with the E minor for now. But by switching between those two, it's like doing star jumps for your fingers. You can do it like this, and what I'd say is just put your hand on your strings to take this hand out of the equation. Fingers 2 and 3, fingers 2 and 3, and just make them jump. Now what you're after is you want them to move at the same time ultimately, but if you have to go finger 2, finger 3, finger 3, finger 2, that's fine. Finger 2, finger 3, finger 3, finger 2, that's fine. Yeah, but ultimately you want to move them at the same time like that. Just practice that movement super slow. Don't feel you need to go super fast, because you have to process this information with your body and your brain at your own speed, not your tutors, nobody else's speed, not anybody showing you something. If somebody's showing you something and they're going too fast, even your guitar teacher, I regularly say, am I going too fast? Tell me if I'm going too fast. You need to be able to process this information. Just doing that. If you do this, then you'll start to feel it gets easier, and then it gets faster. Because what happens is it becomes a subconscious process. The muscle memory takes over. So we're doing that. Now if I strum from that E minor to that chord that I was playing there, which is a kind of a D. I'm not going to get into what the names of the chords are. Yeah? To the E minor. We're going to call it a D. Now, I don't know if any of you recognize that little pattern there. There's lots of up strums which are a little bit more difficult. And if you play that, then what happens is you end up with a song called Horse with No Name by America, which is 2 chords. And their most famous song is A Horse with No Name, which is basically paid for their cars, their mansion, their third wives, and for every holiday they've ever had in their life. So 2 chords, that's all you need. And the lyrics are terrible as well. So, but it's a great tune, and it's a tune that people will recognize. And if people recognize that tune, then they will tell you that they recognize it. They'll go, oh, that's that. Yeah, you're cool, man. Yeah. Remember what I said, carry your plectrum in your pocket, because here's another cool thing. When you take it out of your pocket, when you're buying something in a store or a shop, and it's in amongst your change, and somebody behind the counter realizes, they look at it and they go, oh, he must play guitar or she must play guitar. Then you'll know if they look at it and you go, you feel just a little bit cooler. And it's important to understand that feeling cool is all part of playing guitar. Otherwise, we'd all be playing bassoon or something equally abhorrent. Right then, guys, I'm going to end this live video now. I've been on for 46 minutes. This is a doozy. I hope you enjoyed that. I'll put a link to my YouTube channel at the bottom. I'll blatant plug. Yeah, and hopefully, if you enjoyed that, hit me up in this video here, and I will possibly do another one if you want one. Lead on to the next step. Okay, all right, take care, guys.